The Homes of Mrs. Astor. Part 2. The Double Mansion. After living at her brownstone residence on the corner of 34th Street and 5th Avenue for the majority of her life, she decided to move after her nephew built the Waldorf Hotel next door, and she then turned her lot into the Astoria, where then the two hotels combined, creating the Waldorf Astoria. Her son, John Jacob Astor IV, decided to build with her a new double mansion. They bought two lots, 480 and 481 Fifth Avenue. Mrs. Astor commissioned her good friend and famed architect of the day, Richard Morris Hunt, to design the home. The exterior was done in the French Renaissance style and was completed between the years 1893 and 1895. The home contained 4 floors and a basement. It was indeed a double mansion, and the home was split directly down the center, where John Jacob Astor IV and his family shared the southern part of the residence, while Mrs. Astor occupied the northern part. We will first be exploring the original interiors of the home, and then we will be exploring the renovations that John Jacob Astor made to the home after his mother, Mrs. Astor, passed away. If you wanted to see Mrs. Astor, you would enter to the left, but if you wanted to see J.J. Astor, you would enter to the right. Through entering the home and passing through the vestibule, you would see the grand staircase. It was here that Mrs. Astor made her grand entrances to her own parties. You can notice the vast painting collection which houses the room, and the chandelier came from her original ballroom in her previous home. The salon is a room where Mrs. Astor would have received her guests. We can see her portrait, and she would be standing near her portrait as she greeted them. The room is highly decorated, ornate, and of a much upgraded style than her previous residence. After Mrs. Astor had passed away, John Jacob, he changed a few things in this room. We can see the rug and many of the furnishings are all changed, but the internal architecture, of course, has remained the same. And from the auction catalog, here's just a few pieces that may have been in the room. Now, taking a look at John Jacob Astor's salon, it is done in the Rococo style, Louis XV. You can notice the vast amounts of gilding and the highly ornate, detailed work of these panels. They're absolutely incredible. Walking into this room, I just found it so fascinating that there was no room for any artwork, but the walls themselves were the artwork. But you can see when looking at the original photographs that there was painted murals on the wall and above the door frames, which now have been replaced by mirrors. And the room is just packed full of beautiful antiques and objects, really just showing off the wealth and taste of John Jacob Astor. And once again, the auction catalog just shows off a closer look at some of these real pieces that were in the room and are no longer. Now here's a look inside Mrs. Astor's reception room. This room was used when guests would arrive and Mrs. Astor wasn't ready yet. They would wait there for her to receive them. Just looking at Mrs. Astor's dining room, we can see that there's many pieces that were put together from her old home. We can see the Venus marble statue from the ballroom, as well as the fireplace from her original ballroom. When Mrs. Astor passed away, this is a room that underwent a great deal of change and renovation architecturally. We can see that the room is a great deal brighter, more open, and a lot more detailed. It's so wonderful to see this old catalog of the real objects. Just take a look at some of these pieces that were in the dining room or would be used when dining. There are no pictures to be found of John Jacob Astor's dining room when it was specifically used as a dining room while his mother was alive and lived in the adjoining part of the home. But after she passed, he turned it into a library. You may ask, where are the books? Well, they are underneath the very large tapestry, very concealed and not taking away from anything in the room. The room, of course, is well done and fitted with stunning details. Now let us travel to the ballroom, also known as the picture gallery when not in use for hosting a ball. When Mrs. Astor decided to build her new home, she made sure that this ballroom would wow and stun her guests. And the effect was exactly that. The room was double the size of her old ballroom, which could hold 400, while this one could hold 1,200. The walls were covered in even more priceless and incredible works of art, and the fireplace and ceiling were much more grand and elaborate. Now let's take a look at the second floor. Mrs. Astor's master suite was accompanied by a salon, and in this room she could just take tea, take time to herself, relax, read, and just have a quiet space for herself. She had many closets and a bathroom handy for her, as well as her lady's maid who shared an adjoining room. On that side as well, there was a guest room. On J.J. Astor's side, you see that his room is connected to his wife's, but they are separate. His features a dressing room and an ensuite bathroom, and hers features a boudoir, also known as a dressing room, sort of a ladies' room, as well as plenty of closet space. And her rooms are connected to her children's, which is very handy. And on that side as well, there is another guest room. So the third floor just features a numerous amount of guest rooms and a school room where the governess and the teachers for the children would be. In the basement, that is where the servants got the majority of their work done and prepared for different events. There was lots of storage down there as well of the china and the silver. And the fourth floor is where all of the servants slept. After Caroline Astor passed away in 1908, John Jacob Astor IV converted the whole home into a single-family home, which caused for many renovations. There would be one solid entrance to the home where a domed vestibule would greet you, reminiscent of the Titanic. There was a single staircase which was pushed backwards to the side, simply to make room for this grand entrance hall. And here's just a closer look at that fireplace in the back of the room. There was also a myriad of beautiful tapestries lining the room. We know that their salon stayed the same, but her salon got turned into a morning room, while her dining room completely changed styles, becoming more opulent and impactful. He converted his dining room into a library, and his new wife Madeline completely revamped the upstairs quarters. After John Jacob Astor passed away on the Titanic, the estate went to his son Vincent from his first wife. Vincent decided to sell the estate in 1926. Be sure to join us for part 3.